Hello, my friend. I am Charlie Simons. This is Do Not Talk, talking about two things you're never supposed to talk about, religion and politics. Sometimes, though, we get into other little off-road treks, and we take this rabbit trail wherever we can. And today it's going to be mostly about technology. So if you're not into that thing, first of all, I hope you will change your mind after watching this show with Matthew RAYMER from contentsafe.co. And this is our future. So even if you're thinking, I'm in my 60s now, I'm retired, whatever your age, doesn't matter. You might be thinking, I know what I know, and that's just fine. I plink around on Facebook. That's fantastic. That's all I need to know. I would suggest that you might want to be thinking about expanding your horizons in your territory a little bit, because there's coming a time that this is basically going to be how we communicate, how we do everything. Now, I don't want that, and I'm not talking Mark of the Beast stuff, although I can if you want. I have before, and I will again. But this is more about getting on board now and doing it safely. Doing it in a way that you can trust a lot better than turning everything over to the government and then relying on them to do it. That's the worst thing you could ever do. Speaking of turning things over to the government and relying on them to do it, did you see this? This is the governor of California. He's on a Zoom call with all these different mayors from different cities around California. One of them I actually recognize, and I'm very disappointed at his reaction, and I'll point it out to you in just a second. But he was on this Zoom call, and he didn't think the media had been invited in yet. So whoever was running the whole thing kind of jacked it up in that regard for him, because nobody was supposed to see this Zoom call except for those people who are actually on the call until now. He's talking about being at a Target and he's trying to buy something, and he catches somebody who's shoplifting. Watch.
You drop this. And he comes back, picks it up, and keeps walking out. As we're checking out, the woman says, "Oh, he's just walking out. He didn't pay for that." I said, "Well, why didn't you stop him?" She goes, "Oh, the governor." I swear to God, true story. On my mom's grave. The governor lowered the threshold. There's no accountability. I said, "That's just not true."
It is true, and you're a lying pig. I want you to notice the mayors around him, the ones that we can see in this shot. One is the mayor of the city of Riverside up there. She's hacking it up, having a good old time, laughing, cackling. I can't even believe that. The other one directly, right in the center of the screen. I know that guy. That's Jerry Dyer. He used to be the police chief of Fresno. Now he's the mayor of Fresno. And he used to be, at least so everyone thought, a good conservative. He's done a lot of things that have been very disappointing and shocking, and he's no conservative. Well, his reaction to all of this, which to me is appalling enough as it is, because Governor Hairdo is about to reveal how he treats this employee who dares to say, we can't go after shoplifters. They can just come in and take whatever they want. Watch this.
And I said, we have the 10th toughest, $950, the 10th toughest in America. She doesn't even know what I was talking about. By the way, it's the 10th toughest in America. Look it up. No one gives.
Look it up. I did look it up, by the way, and you're a liar again. No matter how tough your law is, if there's nobody who's going to prosecute, and if they're just going to let everyone right back out again, no bail, just release them back out again, who cares how 10th toughest your law is? Snake.
Right. And I said, it's just not true. They're still stopped. They said, well, we don't stop them because of the governor. And then she looks at me twice, and then she freaks out. She calls everyone over, wants to take.
Because now she realizes this is Governor Hairdo talking to her. I'm sure he told her that, but he didn't want to say that.
Photos. I'm like, no, I'm not taking a photo. We're having a conversation. Where's your manager? How are you blaming the governor? And it was,
Look at these mayors, all just loving it. The fact that he's now trying to get this employee in trouble who dared to say this to him.
$380 later, and I was like, why am I spending $380? Everyone can walk the hell right out.
Well, that's not fair. Not fair.
Not fair. You're absolutely right. Not fair. You collection of vipers. You frickin' swine. What an arrogant ass. And all those mayors around him who are cackling it up. And not one of them said, well, wait a minute, though. This is true. People are walking out with up to $950 worth of stuff every day. And if they do get charged, if they do get brought in, if they do go to trial, it's only charged as a misdemeanor, not a felony like it used to be. Oh, you got to see the end of this Zoom call here.
It's my target. She triggered me. Sorry.
I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I know that Mayor Gloria and Mayor Breed are still logging on. So
reporters weren't on for that.
We've got about 30 folks on, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. I know that Mayor.
We've got about 30 folks on there, and she's about to reveal to watch Governor Hairdo here. Watch him when he finds out there is somebody from the media on this call.
Gloria, as the chair of Big City Mayors, was going to kick us off and introduce Mayor Mahan from San Jose. So, Mayor, you're going to go ahead and kick it off, and then hopefully Mayor Breed will be on by then for you to hand it over. And if not, I will jump in. So I'll go ahead and kick it over to you. And I just want to say thanks to everybody for being here. We will open it up for Q&A at the end of the program. And if there's any technological challenges with that, we'll follow up with you all afterwards. So.
These are the people who you, if you voted, or even worse, if you didn't vote at all, my vote doesn't count. I don't need to vote in the primaries. I'll just wait until the big election in November. There's two different times that we could have gotten rid of Governor Hairdo. Three, actually. There's two recall efforts. One was successful getting to the ballot, but it was defeated, allegedly. And then, of course, we reelected him. We, as in a collective group of Californians, reelected that thing. Now there's another recall effort, by the way. Just announced not too long ago. There's another one coming. We better get it right this time. Matthew RAYMER is my guest. He's with contentsafe.co. We're going to talk about that kind of thing right there. What is safe to do online on Do Not Talk? Hit it.
Yep, here he comes. Riding his trusted steed through the Sierra foothills as he brings you the news. He calls himself
Charlie.
What you doing, Charlie?
Sorry, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. There you are. Look how cute you are. Yeah.
Hey, Charlie. What's with the dark glasses?
And now, here he is, a man of God, living in a world of Disney.
Ow, Charlie.
Charlie Simons.
Charlie bit me.
There it is. You can get that same logo on your own coffee mug. It's a big old 15 ounce or two, by the way. Nice big mug. I like big mugs. I cannot lie. Them the brothers can't deny. And on the back, two things we do talk about: religion and politics, and snakes in the grass who hold public office. You can get that mug and this T-shirt right here at our website, do-not-talk.com. That T-shirt is very high quality, soft, thick. There's our channel right there, rumble.com/do-not-talk. You can catch us on Rumble live every day at 12:05 at rumble.com/CLeeSimons. And you can also catch us on, we're on X, we're on LinkedIn, YouTube. When YouTube doesn't kick us off, we're on 3 different Facebook pages every day at 12:05, Monday through Friday. So do-not-talk.com. Get yourself a mug and a shirt. If you can, you'll help us stay on the air. Help us financially. You can support us too. Also, there's links to our Give, Sing, Go page there. Matthew Raymer, front and center. What's up, my buddy?
Hey, staying busy.
That's a colorful background you got going there. Look at that. Is that your work of art?
No, it's just something I grabbed offline, online.
Just grabbed
Yeah,
online.
I got some. Yeah, just random art. Anything that whenever the person comes into the call, they immediately are shocked whenever they see it. But I can go through my collection sometime. I've got other ones depending on who I'm talking to.
I want to see the full one. Full. There it is. There's the full effect right there. Woo!
But you know, you could also see if I'm feeling more.
Wait, I got to see that full screen. Yeah, that's classic. I've never seen that one. That's funny. I like that one. I like that better than all the colors. Your shirt has enough color for everyone.
Well, I got that one.
Oh, there you go. Good old California grizzly, right?
I had actually asked for a Kodiak, and you notice it's one of those AI perversions. It's got too many claws on its end.
Oh, great. Okay. Speaking of AI, speaking of Zoom meetings, speaking of getting busted and hot mics and so on, how is this still happening in this day and age when it's supposed to be all these people who are really, really good at all this kind of stuff and know how to avoid this, but yet it's happening more and more frequently? What's going on online?
Well, there's a couple things in that interview that are worth noting. One, we're talking about politicians, and politicians don't know anything about technology. They barely know anything about anything. They're just media figures. And so if you're asking them to come to a decision about your technical future, these are the wrong people to be making decisions. Sadly, even though they're the ones legislating, that they're the wrong people.
They're the ones, and they're the ones doing it. You're right. They're calling the shots for everybody. Do you remember, because nobody seems to remember this or the implications of it, but it was Barack Obama right towards the end of his second term that he sold the internet.
The domain registration. Yeah, I remember that.
I'm amazed at how many people don't know that happened. And when I bring it up, they're like going, huh? How do you sell the internet? I don't know. Take it up with him. He did it. How much money did we get for it? I don't know. Where did that money go? Where did it go? Probably by this time to Ukraine. I don't know where it went, but how do you sell the internet? But he did. And now there's like a panel of like 12 people in San Francisco who decide everything that's going to happen on the internet.
Well, he basically handed over ICANN to the international community, and that was primarily domain names. And that's the part that most everybody sees. The internet, from my perspective, is still the wild, wild west. It's very hard if you know anything beyond, introductory level technology. It's very hard to prevent people from seeing things online. Very difficult. What I see is that the public.
When I found out that just on my phone, since I have Google as my server, I did. Don't now.
Good for you.
Every single photo I took on my phone, every single video I shot gets uploaded not just onto my phone, but automatically into some kind of cloud. And I'm like,
yep,
I don't want that. All my emails, that's where they are. Everything's going into some kind of cloud. There is no privacy anymore. And all it's going to take is just one little fell swoop of hacking this and hacking that. And the cloud's going to be raining down on all of us, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't even really have to even be hacking. It can just be legislated away from us.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Well, think about AI for a minute. ML. You hear a lot of talk about it taking away jobs and all that, but actually, the real power of ML is the ability to go through data and find patterns faster than you could using Google. They want to legislate away access to that high quality data mining from the public and only allow select companies to be able to do it.
What the?
Yeah.
Pardon my ignorance, but what's ML?
Machine learning. Machine
Machine
learning is it's an algorithmic way of finding patterns inside data.
Which is, if I could say, I mean, this, I'm sure this is a very tiny little good old boy from Bakersfield example, but because that's what I am. But my text when I'm writing a text or writing an email, it will fill in blanks. Do you want to go this direction? And I can literally click at the end and it will fill in the whole sentence because it already seems to, it's predictive
Yes.
scripting.
And
Is that what it's called?
that is actually a very good simplistic example. They've got collections of sentences. I mean,
That I've used before.
trillions.
That
Not
I've used
just
before.
you, not just you,
Oh,
millions of people.
oh.
How do their sentences, how are they structured? And it can predict what's likely to be the next thing the person's going to type, because there aren't an infinite number of ways to type. Well, there are an infinite number of ways, but we don't do that. We get patterns, and these algorithms are made to find those patterns.
There has been a change because I use howdy a lot. That's my thing. I say howdy. And I will put that in a text or something. It changes it every dang time. I'm sending people outies. I'm sending people, hiding and things like this.
Well,
it
there
won't-
is
it won't-
autocorrect. There is autocorrect, which is kind of the dumb cousin of the autocomplete, right? That all it's doing is trying to guess based on the words you just typed what will fit in the dictionary. But the stuff you see on Google, for instance, if you're typing an email in Google, it might actually finish 3 or 4 words ahead of what you're typing, because it says,
does.
well, commonly in emails, this is what the person means. And you just hit, left, right arrow, and it finishes your sentence for you.
Yeah.
And what's
kinda
powerful
cool.
about that is you realize that right now, with some technical training, not a whole lot, you can install these things on your home computer, and you can be giving it PDFs and having it summarize them right there on your computer.
And is that AI?
That is AI. Now, excuse me, technically it's ML. Okay. ML is just a set of algorithms that are made to find patterns and make predictions based on previous patterns.
Yeah.
AI is a more general thing that's supposed to try to replace the human mind. It's called a general intelligence. And in my perspective, both scientifically and theologically, I think that AI is impossible. I think that humans and biological intelligences are the ultimate intelligence, other than spiritual intelligences.
And I will remind you too that every single one of these programs are written by a human being,
Humans.
or beings, so everything that you get is something that they have ultimately entered into as a possibility to be used. So
Right.
a friend of mine just recently was using AI to try and improve this passage, this little bit that he was writing, newspaper thing, and he was asking for help with how to use God in different sentences. It refused. It wouldn't. That tells me everything about where the future is with these people who are designing the technology. They're taking God right out of the picture.
Well, and I've heard even technologists, I've heard them say silly things like, well, once we get this ironed out, we'll have a truly neutral intelligence that has no biases. And I'm like, how are you going to do that?
Because it comes from people.
Well, yeah, right. It's impossible. It's better. Like what I see ML being useful for is, okay, let's code this ML up to give me a certain bias. And I know what the bias is. This is a leftist ML. And I can go and ask it questions and it will tell me what a leftist will say.
That would be truly unbiased.
Well, you would at least know there would be no pretending. It's labeled. Right. This is a leftist bias. This is a conservative bias. This is, whatever
nice?
Perspective. Well, it would be cool. One of my clients, they represent an old school conspiracy theory person. I don't know. She's from California. Have you ever heard of Mae Russell?
Nate Russell.
No, Mae, M-A-E,
Oh,
Mae
May Russell.
Russell.
No, I have not.
She was a conspiracy theorist. Her show went from 1972 until 1988. And she did, this lady was way ahead of her time, way ahead. She started out Kennedy assassination, and then over the years she moved into all sorts of things like bio warfare, and she was actually one of the people who have you heard of Michael Aquino?
No.
Temple of Set. He was involved with the Presidio scandal, the daycare scandal at the Presidio.
Well, she was
one of the. Yes.
Okay.
May was one of the journalists that broke that story to the world.
Oh, wow.
And her family, like she said, she died in 88. Her family has been preserving her work ever since, and we represent them. And they even think that their mom was actually murdered. So my point here, sorry, I got off on that tangent, but what we propose to the family is taking all of her work, because she has like 800 hours of radio programs and 40 filing cabinets of text, data, letters, correspondence that she gathered over her time, and turn that all into a machine learning model where you could ask May a question. And as long as it's within her space of what she worked in, the answers would represent fairly accurately what May thought.
What she said or thought or wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Now,
and that's the way we need to look at this. These things are not omniscient at all. They're not omniscient.
I mentioned the cloud earlier, and I don't know why I have such a terrible distrust of it. I try and save whatever I can on my own personal computer, on my own personal phone. I try not to have things or utilize it for storage like Google's trying to get me to do. I'm just not interested. Am I right in feeling suspicious?
You are absolutely right. 100% right.
So where are these things stored? Something what you're talking about, that's a lot of data. Where would that be stored?
Did you realize how cheap it is to get storage now?
I don't. I have no idea.
We in the last 3 years we bought about 100 terabytes of drives for our office, and it's not. We don't even have the cost of a small car. $1,000 would get you about 24 terabytes with backup built in. Put it on your desk. It's definitely going to keep all your shows, probably all your documents, and you'll still have space left over.
I've got one right now. Everything goes on that. That one I think is a 14 terabyte, but but they fail. And when they fail, and I've had it happen to me twice now where I lost everything and there was no way to recover it. At least I was told there was no way to recover it.
Does the drive support RAID, R-A-I-D?
That's a new thing, right? Fairly new.
No, RAID's been around for decades. It's
really?
Thing.
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it.
What you do is the drives that we buy are 48 terabytes. You've got, I believe I don't know how many drives that is. I think it's 6 drives, depending on how big each drive is. And the box will take half of them, and it will duplicate everything that's on one drive to the other drive. So now you have a copy of everything on a backup drive. And if one of them goes out, then you just send it back to the company, and they can have it fixed so that it keeps all your data.
But you got to send it back to the company. But that sounds. I mean, I have heard about that
over a phone. But yeah, You should look into it. It's Buffalo.
Let me
Buffalo
ask you
is the
this too, because their earlier drives basically had a disc in there and they were spinning all the time. And if anything happened or it got jostled or dropped or something, boom, there was, there were ways to recover it. But the SSD, the solid state drive,
problem
which are supposed to be a lot tougher, but if they fail, there's no recovering.
Well, and the problem with SSDs is they have a write limit. In other words, they're good for so many writes to the drive, and then they stop being able to write. That's why I don't use SSDs for long-term storage.
Oh, no, they
If you were
stop.
going
They
to-
stop the ability to write, but that doesn't mean everything that's on there goes away, does it?
No.
That
So
doesn't
what
fail.
what I would say, if I were going to use SSDs, I would use them as offline. In other words, I write to it, then I unplug it, and I put it in a clean, dry place for long-term storage. But if I were going to be using it actively every day, SSDs are not a good place to store things.
Thank you for telling me that. Thank you for telling me that, because that's what I've been using when I go on the road. Because it's supposed to be able to take a lot more jostling and
Well, and it does, and it might
heat and
be
cold.
okay if you're traveling, but for long-term storage that you were going to be using every single day, no, it's not good. I have
Good to know.
I've got a whole shelf full of hit discs over here to my left.
Do you?
Yeah, because
I don't know how old you are, but you're always hearing, "Oh, young people are the only ones who know how to do computers." I'm like, really? Well, I could have sworn that it was dudes who are now our age who first built them. I'd imagine they probably know something about it.
well, I found it to be a nice cover for their own inefficiencies because I'm 54. I used my first computer whenever I was in 4th grade. I was very blessed that the Indiana school systems had mainframe computers in the 70s. So I started using a computer when it was a paper terminal.
A Commodore 64.
No, before Commodore 64.
Before Commodore.
We're talking about these were paper terminals. There was no screen. It was just paper. And you would type and it would print out everything on a sheet of paper. That's how long I've been in computers.
So it's
And
just
my
like
first-
it was like an old school word processor, basically.
Yeah, it was.
That was
And
it.
whenever you wanted to repeat something, you would have to print it out again. And we had boxes and boxes and boxes of paper around the school. The first computer I had at home was a Commodore 64.
There you go. My very first computer was a Texas Instruments calculator. It was about that big.
The TI, not the TI 99.
Remember those?
Well, you know,
I didn't
I
grow
used-
up around computers. It's been a learning curve for me, that's for sure.
Well, so I generally laugh at younger guys who say that, I'm an old man. I'm like, you know what? I was the first adopter to all this technology. I had a Gmail account whenever Gmail was in beta. It's the same one. And I plan to get rid of that soon. I've been migrating away from cloud-based things for the last
I'm
5
migrating
years.
away from Google, period. I've been sounding the alarm to anybody who will listen for years now. I'm like, you want to find an example of exactly how jaded they are? Here's what you do. In your search engine on Google or on Bing on Microsoft, same freaking thing. You just type in Trump, great president. That's it. Search that. You'll go 3, 4, 5 pages before you see one positive story about President Trump. It'll be all negative, 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 negative. That's how they infiltrate. That's how they influence. And people don't go past that first page. And they know it for the most part. I mean, if you're really searching for something, you don't just look at the first page, you keep going. But that's Google and that's Bing. And if you want more of that, go ahead and stick with it. But there's a whole lot of other search engines that you can make your primary. I happen to use Swiss cows, and somebody laughed when I was just yesterday. So I use Swiss cows. What's that? It's out of Switzerland, and it's supposed to be, like we don't care. We're out of the fray. We're not going to pick a side. You do what you want, but here's everything in the world. When you go to Swiss cows, there's also brave.com, I think is a good one. And they don't keep any record of what you do. You're not going to be having ads show up. What do you
never
like?
heard of. I use Presearch at presearch.com.
Never heard of
it. Yeah. I had never heard of Swiss cows. Thank you. This looks.
Yeah, check it out.
Nice.
Yeah, Presearch. Okay, good.
Yeah, I know. I've talked with the guy that's behind it.
And
this basically things are slurped off of Google and other places. But if you look underneath it, he's got different places that you can get your data from.
there it is, Presearch.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Thank you for that. I'll check that out.
I'm definitely going to check out Swiss cows.
Let me ask you something else too. What's going to happen to all of us? Because right now, I think finally, my fellow conservatives, I don't know where you stand on the political issue. I'm obviously a flag waving, card carrying Republican. I know that I'm targeted. I know that I'm shadow banned. I'm on my 21st 90-day restriction. That's over 5 years on my Facebook pages. I'm on 90-day restriction. I used to get hundreds of likes and responses, things I post. Now I'm lucky to get 8. People are not seeing what I post on purpose because they don't want me having any kind of influence in their little Star Trek utopia that they're trying to build. Heaven on earth here with their one world government, Yahoo, Klaus Schwab ruling the world. So I know this, and I know there's coming a time, at least I believe, there's coming a time where if they, and we've seen it happen in other countries, China, look at this, look what they did in Hong Kong when they shut down the internet. Nobody could communicate, nobody could get through. Is there any other way that you're working on, or maybe you're already a part of, or that you could give us a little light at the end of the tunnel to divorce ourselves from that kind of control?
Okay. The story is yes, but it's not as easy to use as the things we're accustomed to using. So what we're trying to do is marry these other technologies, which are not new. People have been sounding the alarm bell about this problem for 20 years. I follow projects that most people don't ever see because they just they don't know where to look. There are projects out there that will provide content distribution without any central corporate control.
The dark web?
Exists. You call it dark web. It's not. I wouldn't classify it as dark web.
That's what they use in commercials. That's what they're always talking about, the dark web. Make sure you're not on the dark web. I don't even know how to get to the dark web. Well, sure, you got to trust us. Pay us money. We'll see if you're on the dark web.
I call Google the
I'm
dark
very
web.
sure you've heard those commercials.
Yeah, I call Google the dark web.
I do too.
There's a technology called interplanetary file system.
Okay.
This is it's really based on technology that came from 20 years ago. Have you ever heard of BitTorrent?
What?
BitTorrent.
Torrent?
Yeah.
No. BitTorrent. No.
BitTorrent was a file sharing protocol that it usually gets identified as coming from the dark web, but it was actually a totally legitimate protocol for helping companies transfer data to their clients very quickly. So what would happen is you would have participants in a network who had either complete copies or partial copies of a piece of data. And you would join all of those people in that network. They call it a swarm, and they would contribute to you all the pieces you needed of that file. So you could transfer multi-gigabyte files very quickly, and it would go past ISP bandwidth restrictions because all of the participants were coming from different locations on the internet. Well,
Okay.
IPFS is like BitTorrent 2.0, and it provides this is the part that I'm saying it's not easy to use. Okay. It provides a unique ID for every file that gets put out on the network.
Oh.
So you
So
could
it's all
put,
encrypted. Everything's each individual thing is encrypted, just like that.
well, the name is encrypted, but the contents are not encrypted unless you encrypt them. Okay, so it's all open except for the identity. The file name is just a random generated sequence of numbers and letters, which is the part that's a little bit hard to work with. We're used to having a file name and maybe a title and a description. Well, the technology, the basement level technology of this is done. It works, and nobody controls it. It's basically run by the community. The layer I think needs to be added is that convenience layer that allows you to know, well, what's in this file and can I protect it? Can I secure it? And the guys who built IPFS made a mistake, in my opinion. They made a mistake. Their basement level technology is perfect. It's got some problems, but it's by and large, it does what it's supposed to do. Well, the next level of that, the part that really was needed to make it convenient, they turned it to a cryptocurrency.
Bitcoin.
It's like Filecoin is what it's called. And I think this was a critical error because now, even though the technology doesn't necessarily need a company for it to work, the SEC can come in and say, anybody, you can't buy Filecoin. So now you basically had the key taken away from you. You got the solution, potentially the solution there, but because you tokenized it, you turned it into a cryptocurrency, you made it easy to regulate.
What does that stand for, by the way? You said IP. What was it again?
Interplanetary File System.
IPFS.
Right.
What does HTTPS stand for?
Oh, Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure.
Okay. And if it doesn't have the S on the end, don't go to that website. That's all I know.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
Okay, here's the problem with, yes, if you were trying to protect yourself from your neighbor or from maybe some other nefarious person just driving by trying to sniff the traffic off your network, then HTTPS is probably useful. But if you're trying to protect yourself from Google or the NSA or something, all the keys to decrypt that are part of a central repository, and they can decrypt all your messages. It's not secure.
Who's coming up with these names, by the way? I mean, interplanetary? What are you, that arrogant?
Well, I don't know.
Who
All
comes
I
up
know
with
is
these
that the
names?
technology, usually it's a committee. If it's like HTTP, HTTPS, that's a committee somewhere. Interplanetary File System, it's a bunch of geeks. That's what it is.
Interplanetary. Okay, Captain Kirk. Well done.
But one thing that you might find interesting is Interplanetary File System, IPFS, is accessible from Brave browser.
From the Brave browser. And I do use Brave. I have it on my phone
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah,
And Brave has some kind of odd reward system too, which I signed up and then I just never even went back. I forgot how to look at it.
It's another cryptocurrency. So
That's
it's
what
like
it is,
I'm not against the idea of a cryptocurrency, but I do know that it's too easy to regulate. Odyssey learned their lesson the hard way. Odyssey platform, right? They founded everything on a crypto. And I've met Jeremy Kaufman, the guy behind Odyssey. And, I was like, man, great idea, except I wish you hadn't put a cryptocurrency in it, because now the SEC shut them down.
And they can, because who owns and operates the actual internet as we know it? It was
Right.
originally the
Now-
military. This was a military
DARPA.
invention. Al Gore didn't invent it. The military did.
No.
And the United States military, by the way. And it was just to communicate amongst themselves in a secret way, so that, for the really, really, nobody can know this super secret squirrel, top
But
secret stuff.
See, the cool thing about the internet is it's designed to be resilient. In other words, it's very hard to take it down. Very hard. In fact, that's why whenever I hear people talking about Cyber 9/11, it isn't going to happen. It might happen on a regional level, on a city,
Like China
but
did.
it's not going to happen. Well, what China? Let's be honest. If you know anything about China, China's firewall is not absolutely secure.
Really?
No, it's not.
Interesting.
It's pretty good. Now, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
it's pretty good, but it's not absolutely secure. I have met people who have breached it.
Oh.
And I know people who have traveled to China who tell me that the Chinese regularly breach their firewall. They said it's really,
Interesting.
the technology is so porous.
You
Charlie.
breach it, but you don't do anything once you get in there, unless you want to get Hillaried. So it's going to be, yeah, I've heard about this too. Stu Peters is a podcaster that I like to watch now and then. And he's just convinced that that's what's coming. They're going to shut down the internet completely. Who they are, I don't know. Nobody ever explains that to me. They're going to shut down the internet completely, and they're going to stop the election, and on and on and on.
Here's the problem. The best intelligence gathering network ever was the internet. So what? You're going to poke out both your eyes? No. You're going to keep the internet. During the Arab Spring, they took out the internet in Egypt for like 2 or 3 days. But that was only to disrupt protests that were immediately happening. They couldn't possibly stop it forever.
Yeah.
Because then they'd be blinding themselves. They need that intelligence data to know what's going on.
Interesting.
And just think about the psychological effects of the internet too. I mean, there's a lot of control systems like with Facebook and TikTok and all of that they're actually influencing culture.
Mm-hmm. In a bad way.
Yes,
in
a bad way. It could, you know what? It could, in the right hands, with the right agenda, you could have such a marvelous effect on the whole world. But the people in control right now are not good people.
They're just not. You're absolutely right. Let me ask you something on a simple. What the heck is an algorithm? And are they tasty?
An algorithm is another example of machine learning, where they have trained a piece of software to recognize patterns that they don't want people to be talking about. And I'll add another part to this. It can also detect agendas they want to promote. So in other words, we think, well, that person's a shill or they're an agent. If you stay in this world very long, you hear those two terms all the time. They don't have to be. They really don't have to be. They can just be crazy people that are advocating nonsense, but you're pushing them up. And you know what they can also do? They can also put fake subscribers on there. How do you know that person really has 100,000 subscribers?
I've heard about that. I've heard about that. And they can also take it away. I have friends in the podcasting world, conservatives, who they went from a couple 100,000 followers to overnight 33,000 the next day.
Well, you know, I've heard the magic number is 10,000. And the algorithm here has a bit more complication to it. It's not only what you say, it's also how much influence they perceive you having. So if you are perceived as being a person of influence, when you hit that 10,000 mark, that's when they're going to delete your channel.
Despite the fact that they might be losing money because of that and viewership, they literally don't care, because
They
this
don't
is their
care.
religion. This is their religion. The government is their God. That's what they worship.
Let's think about this for a minute. The people behind this invent the money out of thin air.
Yeah, you're right. They do.
So how they don't care.
They really don't.
Mm.
Just like Hollywood, why would
Eh.
they make a movie that they know is going to be a box office failure just so they can get a political message across? They wouldn't do that to themselves because they need the money. No, wrong answer. They absolutely
don't
will
need the
do
money.
that, and they do it all the time.
Yeah,
I don't-
I would say that just to give you, I figure we're stopping at an hour, right?
We can, or if we're having a good time, we'll keep going, buddy. It's up to you.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask my business partner if I need to. Yeah. So, what was I going to say to you?
We were talking about the influencing when you hit
Yeah.
10,000, and then yeah.
Yeah. I just to give you a bit of personal history. My dad was an OG conspiracy theorist.
OG conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, original gangster. Yeah. So back in the day, say around 1984, 1985, I was a teenager. My dad, I'm the last child, and I'm like 16 years difference between me and the previous one. So my dad was
wow.
getting up there, right? He was getting up there whenever I was 16, 15, 16 years old. And one day he said,
Dad, you want to play ball? No, son, I'm going to take a nap.
No, it's like, son, the bankers control the world. Like, Dad, really? The whole world?
The whole
Like,
world.
so I've been exposed to this stuff, but I didn't really get red pilled until the 2000s. So in 2007, whenever Barack was running, and I heard him say hope and change, and I'm like, that
From what?
doesn't really, that doesn't really make any sense.
They never asked, what do you mean change? Of course, all they had to do was read his book, and they would have seen what kind of change he was talking about, but nobody did.
Well, whenever you know that his mentor was Bill Ayers.
Right. And he
then it
hates
says
the United
everything,
States of
doesn't it?
America.
It
Yeah,
says everything.
exactly.
Well,
And Saul Alinsky.
I dropped my subscription to CNN. I don't listen to BBC. I got all my information off of reading from I didn't even do video. I was like, I just read articles. Well, around 2012 was when I finally said, you know what? I might think he's a nutcase, but Alex Jones seems to be awfully right about a lot of stuff.
I know. I don't really watch him online, but I used to listen to him when he was on the radio and he was just getting started. And I'm going, this guy's crazy in his delivery, but dang, he's really saying some bam pow stuff, and it's turning out to be true. You're right.
So over the years, you start collecting all this information, and it really changes the way you look at media. It changes the way you look at professionals. I have an acquaintance of mine that's pretty high level network guy, very, 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 very talented guy. And his comment when dealing with people from the government in security was that most of them were clueless and they didn't understand what they were doing.
Yeah.
So I honestly think we need more people like you, Charlie, because you all are in trouble.
I know I am. And I know all my friends are too, who are doing this as well. I've become great friends with many others who are doing this, and we're doing it. If we make money, fantastic. Otherwise, no, we look at this as our ministry now. especially
Yeah.
me and this other friend of mine comes to mind named Vin Dog down in SoCal. He and I are big on talking about God. We bring God into everything, which I do believe is how we need to be. He should be at the center of everything, the creator of the universe at the center of everything. Imagine that. So again, I don't know where you lie with your faith and all that, but I thank you for that. But I do realize there's coming a time that they could and probably are already beginning to shut us down completely. I just don't know
Well,
how.
I think the TikTok thing is something to watch out for. The TikTok
Yeah.
law.
And it passed the
That
House
is
and
a
it's going to the Senate.
very dangerous, even though they claim it's narrowly scoped. If you dig down below the abstract, it's not as narrowly scoped as what they claim. So I think that may be the attack that they've set.
Interesting. And what's next? Rumble? Well, Rumble is originally out of Canada, and we can't trust those people up there in Canada, even though we want everything that they have, including Justin Trudeau. We love him. We worship him. Where do they go next from here? I think the algorithm thing seems to be the most effective for conservatives like me who are trying to use social media as a public platform.
I'll be curious to see if there is any action before the election, given the fact that I think they may be panicking. We may actually see something before the election.
Well, you've encouraged me about the whole it's almost impossible to shut down the internet, and I still don't know where it comes from, by the way, and who runs it. Do you know? Does anybody know?
Well, as long as you have, I've often joked that if someone were to cut off the internet, but we still had power, in 60 days, I could rebuild a local network that only the community could control.
Maybe we
So
should do
that's
that
how.
now.
Yeah, we should. We should. You know, like I said, there are technologies that you can do all of this already. You just got to have the motivation to do it, and maybe you might have to compromise on your convenience until
Conveniences, yeah.
you get familiar with how it works, right? It's not going to be as convenient, but it's still going to get you the data, the information you need. And I am a big believer in human networking. I think that if anything,
Actually, face to face, you mean?
Yeah. In the last 30 years, one thing that I think we have neglected, and though I do think in the last 5 years, this has begun to reverse. But we need to be building our local network, our local community, because they're the people that are the closest to us.
I had a great interview with a guy who was actually on the People's Convoy, which happened a couple of years ago when truckers and several others, hundreds and hundreds of vehicles, went across the entire nation to Washington, D.C. during the whole government shutdown, the mask mandate, all that crap.
Right.
And he said the only ones, because when we went through areas when they're trying to communicate with everybody, and so that everyone's on the same page, they were resorting to CB radios.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Citizens band radios. That's how they were communicating. And then they pass it. And if you were out of range, the one behind you would pass it along to the one. So they were close, because it only has a range of a few miles, I think. But it's interesting to think about that it might come to a time where it's ham radio if you have power. I mean, if they shut, we haven't even talked about what happens if they shut down the whole grid.
Well,
which I do believe that's a whole lot easier to target than the internet. It sounds like to me.
Again,
and it would have the same effect, wouldn't it?
I don't even really know that they even have to really do that. I mean, the whole social manipulation and the internet is such a nice lever on society, and that electricity is part of convenience. If you want to start creating stubborn, difficult to manage people, take away their technology from them. If you want to create passive people who don't want to get out of their comfort zone, keep giving them technology.
That's so true. Oh, that's so true. All right. Listen, I've stolen enough of your time. You're fantastic though. I really enjoy talking to you, and I'm so grateful that you don't talk down to me, because I'm obviously just, again, a good old boy from Bakersfield. I don't always know a lot
Well,
about any of this. I'm trying to learn.
I didn't really say it, but just real quick, I grew up on a farm in southern Indiana.
Back home
My
again in
dad,
Indiana.
you know, my dad was a diesel mechanic who got promoted into management. My grandfather was a sawyer. You know, a sawyer like Tom Sawyer. He would go around the countryside buying logs for sawmills.
Really?
Yeah, that's how
Lord.
we inherited our land in southern Indiana because my grandfather found it while he was getting logs. And I grew up 50 acres of field, 50 acres of forest, you know, played out in the woods, and got interested in computers. And, you know, that's from the farm to from the cornfield to the server farm. You know.
I love it. I think that's fantastic. That makes me like you even more now that I know that background. And I'm glad you chose the turkey background behind you there too. A lot better than that other splash of color. How do we find you? How do we find out more about what you do? And how do we maybe even utilize your services and get involved with you?
Okay, contentsafe.co is the website. I've got an onboarding form there. We usually ask to have an interview with all of our clients before we agree to work together. And just fill out the onboarding form. It'll send me an email and we can find a time to talk.
Sounds good. Can you give us an idea of what you offer, or will the website tell us all that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it will, but let me just say it real quick, just for convenience. We are a content redistribution service, so we offer the ability to get your video up on all of these alternative platforms as well as the mainstream platforms. And it's an automated system that I wrote myself.
I love it. Thank you so much. You're a good dude, Matthew Raymer, and obviously very smart.
Well, thank you, Charlie.
And again, it's contentsafe.co, not .com,
Correct.
.co. What's the significance of that, by the way?
Well, co is what the British like to use for company. And someone already had com.
Okay.
So that's why we went with co. Yeah.
Got it. Right on. Pleasure meeting you. Thank you, sir. Don't go away though. Hang on. Okay. I want to talk to you more off air. Maybe I can work a deal. Thanks for joining me very much. I really appreciate you more than you know. I don't know if I tell you that often enough. The fact that you watch, you share, you comment, you like, you subscribe or follow, depending on where you're watching this or listening to it. That's how you help us grow. And also by sharing these shows. I don't think I said anything in this show that would get me kicked off YouTube. So you don't have to feel like, oh, I can't put that one on because Charlie talked about this and he's going to get me in trouble, because I know that happens. So feel free to share this show wherever you're watching or listening to it. And thank you for your input. And I want to offer you up to 80% off any MyPillow product. Up to 80% off any MyPillow product. How was that for a segue into a commercial? MyPillow.com/Lee. That's my middle name, Lee. Up to 80% off. Support this American company. Mike Lindell, awesome patriot, one of my heroes. He's been deplatformed, man. I'd love to get him on with Matthew and just listen in to those two guys talk about what's been happening with him and how he could avoid this kind of crap. So it's MyPillow.com/Lee. Save up to 80% off. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, may America bless God.